Welcome to the Configure It Done podcast. The Configure It Done podcast is a place where successful thought leaders in the SAP space come to share their leadership styles, their tips, and their unique stories on how to run successful large-scale SAP programs. Listen to the podcast to learn from their successes, their failures, their career stories, and their inspirations.
This podcast is in partnership with the Black Dog Institute, who aim to create a mentally healthier world for everyone. If you wish to support the cause, please donate via the link below.
Season 3, we are back in the office. Delighted to have Ashley Brown and Clive Mancey with us today. So brilliant to have you guys. Thank you for coming along.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I've also got my colleague Sarah. She's back
Hello.
again.
In the office this time. Very exciting. I think the camera works better for me in the office than on my webcam. So I got my stuff and stuff, you know.
All right, so let's get to know a bit about Ashley and Clive. Sarah, if you want to do a quick fire question round.
Let me kick off. Okay, so we're going to ask both of your names, obviously. So full names, Ashley.
Yeah, I'm Ashley Brown.
Lovely. Clive.
Clive Mancey.
No middle names.
Oh, we don't share those.
Okay, fair enough. All right. And I'll just alter. So where are you from, Ashley?
So I'm born in Zimbabwe.
Wow.
And I think I've just lived in a lot of places. So I'm from a lot of everywhere. Now Sydney, and probably this is where I am, you know,
For the foreseeable.
for the foreseeable future. Yeah.
And how long have you been in Australia, Clive?
Well, I was one of the last £10 poms,
Wait.
something like that. Anyway, so I'm from London and been here a number of years now. I hate to say it.
London.
I know, so much London.
Londoner,
It's a long
yeah.
story. I'll take it offline, but there's context
sure.
here. It's almost a podcast Easter egg at this point, actually. And where are you both currently working? I guess give me an easy one.
ExpediteIT. So we've joined forces after working together for quite a while, and we have this company, and it's growing. So.
That's exciting. And best job you guys have ever had?
Oh.
Yes,
Yeah, this is pretty good. Look, I worked in Malaysia, setting up a shared services for 5 years, and that was a pretty good job. I really enjoyed living in Malaysia.
my original home.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that later too. Worst job you've ever had?
Oh, we were laughing about this. Yeah.
Yeah, no, there's one job I had which the client wanted me to kind of implement SAP module, and it just went on, and the resistance was incredible. So after 3 months, they said, we'd like to extend you, Clive, and I said, no, I'm afraid I really couldn't do it. It's just nothing was happening,
Yeah, stalemate.
So I had to think hard about the worst job though, but that was probably it.
No, I
And
didn't.
you?
I didn't have to think very
Yeah.
hard at all. My worst job was not an SAP job. My worst job was door-to-door selling of paintings in London. So when I first got to London, I had no money, and that was the only thing I could get was on commission and crappy paintings. Excuse my language. Door-to-door at night. Knock, knock, knock.
At night?
Yeah. Do you want to buy this beautiful painting?
Have you never had anyone knock on your door about that?
London,
No.
everybody
No.
did. It was
Gosh,
just you got
yeah.
up and down the street
You?
trying to sell.
Yeah, it's
terrible.
big.
Big,
yeah.
isn't it? Yeah.
Really?
Oh,
Sure.
sure.
Never ever.
I bet that taught you a lot though about work.
I tell you what, it taught me to appreciate every job after that. Also taught me that I'm not a salesperson.
All right, and favorite sport? I'll let either of you answer. None?
Rugby union, swimming.
Yeah, perfect. Favorite beer, Ashley? I know you have one.
Lots of beer. If it's lager, it's usually pretty good.
Nice. Okay. Favorite meal to go with it?
Roast pork with crackling.
Classic.
In France, confit de canard. That's it.
Ooh.
So
All right. And what's been your number one lockdown tip? Both of you getting through it now.
for me, keep busy. And I took time to scan lots of photo albums and digitize them. So
Yeah, and I think just remembering how lucky we were. So
Yeah.
like I said, there's a lot of people had a lot harder lockdown than I did. So every time I wanted to whinge,
yeah,
it
true.
wasn't that
Perspective.
bad. Yeah,
Yeah,
perspective. That's
yeah.
right. It's perspective.
100%.
Yeah, we were talking off air before about what Expedite did and buying gifts for your colleagues.
Yeah.
I think that's brought a lot of loyalty and retention, but we might go into that later on as well.
Yeah, and we were pleased to do it as well. It was,
Yeah.
it's kind of nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
And if you could describe your management style, maybe both of you, what would it be? How would you sum it up?
So myself, hands-on, I think.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So very personal.
And collaborative. That's
Good words.
Yeah.
Good words. Okay, and the wrapping up now. Favorite film, music?
My favourite film is The Knight's Tale. So yeah, I love that.
Good
I can watch that
Yeah,
again
it's
and
so
again
good,
and again.
isn't it?
The
It's
music's
so good.
great.
Yes,
The
I
eye-
agree.
the
I
eyesight's
watched it
good.
recently. What about you, Clive?
Rolling Stones, music,
Nice.
blues, and things like that. But films, I go back a long way. I was trying to think. Zulu perhaps was one of the ones that my favourite. No one's ever heard of that, but anyway. Go on.
And favorite holiday destination for you guys?
Go on, actually. Go on.
Anywhere in Europe, I just love the history. So
Mm.
I love Greece, I love Italy, I love Germany.
Yeah. It's interesting to walk the streets, isn't it? Seeing so much.
Yeah.
And what about your bucket list thing to do, Clive?
Actually, smile, but basically, for me, really, there's lots to do. But I'd really love to see Expedite really grow,
Yeah.
and that's something I'd, bit of an ambition.
Yeah.
What's the vision for it?
Well, I think it's really getting the balance of, we work in the New South Wales government, but public and private sector, getting that balance right, I think, is important for us.
Yeah, and a transition across from using contractors to having our own permanents on board as well. So that's quite a big transition to do.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
sort
So-
of valuing the staff that we've got that are contractors,
Mhm.
because they bring such a wealth of knowledge and experience and good practice with them.
Mhm.
But then also being able to hire new grads and youngsters and actually put them to learn from the more experienced contractors that we've got on board. So that's probably our passion at the
we've
moment.
started on that whole thrust.
We started at the beginning of this year doing the interviews and stuff. We got grads on board, offered them jobs in June, onboarding and at the end of their exams. Lockdown came. So we thought, look, maybe don't start until after lockdown at the end of July, and then lockdown got extended.
Mhm.
So we then, we better just start them, otherwise they're going to get discouraged. So we met them when lockdown ended, but they'd been working remotely.
Months.
Yeah, for months, and that's pretty tough for new grads to sort of understand what you're doing.
So
It was
it was
challenging.
amazing, kind of physically meeting these people, having a coffee. This is what we do at work. We have a coffee, and they're trying to understand us.
Yeah.
But that's good, so it's lovely.
Yeah, it was a real problem, wasn't it, through lockdown, onboarding remotely, whether
We
you're a
had some.
grad.
Oh,
yeah.
no,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah, we had
Yeah.
some here, so
Yeah.
it's massive.
You've had a few
learning,
here, haven't
and
you?
you have to
Yeah.
adapt.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And it's like
Indeed.
you mentioned, like so much of what they will do on a day to day, you can hear it when you're on the floor, you can hear it when you're working around the people, but all of a sudden put them in isolation. They
It's
don't
it's very
have that.
difficult.
Yeah, they don't
Yeah.
have that.
Because
almost
you want them
context.
shadowing you to understand your conversations,
Mm.
discussions
Yeah.
about
Or a quick
projects and-
question, you asked me to do this, I've got a quick question, but if you're not together, that's
You'd be
harder.
Exactly.
missed. Yeah.
When we interviewed Sahida Frawley, she had a fantastic saying: "Is what you see is what you aspire to be," and that
Yeah.
rings true if you're
Yeah.
in the office and
Yeah.
you're seeing people around you
Yeah.
and learning from them,
how they behave.
Yeah.
how they
Yeah,
behave.
exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly that. And if you weren't in SAP, what do you think you guys would do?
Oh, I'd be in tourism.
Really? Do you reckon?
Oh, I love
could see you
travel.
doing
I
that.
love tourism. I remember my first trip to Australia years ago. I went to the Barrier Reef and went out, did my first scuba dive out there, and just thought, I just want to do a job like this. And I was sitting there going, yeah, but I got a good job doing IT back in London. Do I give that up and come and live in Cairns and, take people out on a boat? And, the money wasn't comparable, and you just go, okay, not doing that. But yeah, if I didn't, from a lifestyle and enjoyment, I reckon I'd do
Yeah.
tourism.
So now the borders are open. Where's your first
Yeah, where
holiday?
you
You got
going?
anything planned?
Yeah, just back to the UK, I think.
Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah,
Very fair.
got to go and see family, and I got to say I've missed it. Not winter, not going in winter, but we'll
Oh,
go
yeah,
back
sure.
and enjoy a pint in the pub. And
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, I can't wait to. My sister's just had a kid, and
Oh,
I need,
yes.
I need to meet
you
her.
need to be there.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to going back.
yeah.
Nice. What about you, Clive? What would you be doing?
I'd be like you two. I'd be a world famous interviewer.
Well, famous, stop it.
No, But actually, we went through this the other day, and Ashley said, "You're just nosy," and I was just not really. But I'm always interested to see how people tick, and their crossroads in life as to what made them go this way or that way, and things. I find that fascinating.
There we go.
There we go.
I can see it.
Mhm.
See it. All right, that covers it for my
Good.
quick fire round. Thank you
That's
both.
Yeah, that was brilliant.
Yeah.
Good to get to know you a bit better. So let's dive into the crux of the
Sure.
podcast. Ashley, I'm going to put it to you first. Tell us a bit about how you got into SAP. What was your story and your journey?
So I was a programmer in the old days. Big old IBM machines and COBOL programming, green screen stuff. Company I worked for put in SAP, the big old R2 system, and I was doing BAU on the legacy. And the guys that implemented R2, on the day of go live, they resigned and went off contracting, because that's what you did in those terrible times. Made a lot of money. And so my boss sort of said, "Oh, well, need someone to look after this R2 that's gone live. You're going to have to learn it." So that got me into SAP. And yeah, never regretted it. Not a single day. Not a single day.
Such a common origin story as well for how people started that SAP career.
Yeah.
Just, we don't have anyone to help.
Mm.
You do IT, don't you?
Yeah.
You're in this team now, and then
Yeah.
they stay for 25 plus years.
Yeah.
It definitely gets its hooks in you.
Yeah, and I think, I'd worked in a bank before with some bank software, and always thought, well, what's going to happen with this software? Is it going to die out? Is it going to grow? And then got into SAP, and the same thoughts came, is this SAP going to be around for a few years? And don't get too tied with one bit of software. But, I think the thing at least with SAP has been great is that it's always moving. So you go from R2, and then we did the R3 and ECC, and, now S4. So they're always growing and improving and keeping a really solid customer base. So it's not boring. It's not just doing the same old COBOL programming year after year after year. It's actually always something to learn. And, I think that's what keeps us both excited or interested, is always learning. If you're just doing the same thing every day without learning, that's pretty boring.
Every project has its challenges, and that's good. Face up to them,
Yeah.
And how about yourself, Clive? How did you...
I worked for 20 plus years for French companies, major French companies, and the last one really decided they were going to have go SAP. I was in Australia at this time. Go SAP, go away, Clive, work in France, understand SAP, go on all the courses and God knows what. And then they were building an SAP template for their rollouts to all their plants and things. And so I got involved in that, and then came back to Australia to implement it at big clients and things like that. And it was good, it was lovely. I've always enjoyed SAP. They've got, for me now, you do quality assurance, making sure business readiness assessments, lots of stakeholder management, all the good things,
Yeah.
which I like. So
Different
it's
flavour.
been fun, definitely.
Yeah.
So you've mentioned France now twice. You
Yeah.
obviously used to live there.
Yeah, I did. With the work and things like that. So I was there for quite a while and things like that. But no, I just for a British person, it's not easy to say, is it? And probably not at this moment. But it's good, lovely. I've got lifelong friends, and I enjoyed the culture and whatever. So.
What was the cultural differences working there compared to the UK and then Australia as well?
One of the things I noticed is that the French love a meeting, and they show all their kind of emotions at the meeting, and when it's finished, they stop, and then we go for a drink or coffee or whatever. It's very big
It's
like
left
that.
at the table kind of thing.
No, I meant really they show all their emotions. They fight with each other at the meeting.
But they leave it at the table.
They leave it
Yeah.
at the table,
And then they're like, "All right, let's
they
go."
go off, and it's all
Oh, that's good.
It's quite different there. It's not little grudges. It's done because it's a meeting and it's important, and we go through all that. And they were very understanding. Really understanding.
Yeah, but you learnt to speak French.
Yes. Yeah.
See?
Yeah.
The other English people that don't learn to speak French, maybe not quite so.
No,
Positive.
but it's also, if you're introduced by a French person to a French person,
Yeah.
it makes a lot of difference, and so it's good.
Yeah,
It
it
was nice.
sounded like a really good time.
I had a ball. No, I really did. And they were so kind in Australia. they'd say, "Oh, we want you to go to France for whatever, and make sure you see your parents in England," and
Brilliant.
that type of stuff, which is really nice.
That's
So
soft
it didn't
touch.
really cost them a lot, but it was very important to give to an employee.
Well, good on you for learning French. A lot of
Yeah.
English, like myself, we're very arrogant to our
No,
languages, aren't we?
it was a slow thing. We started reading Maigret at school, I remember, and whatever. So anyway, that's good.
Okay, brilliant. Well, coming back to yourself, Ashley, what keeps you in the SAP domain?
What keeps me working is just I'm just a bit of a workaholic. I'm just really motivated. I love what I do. I never thought I would do IT when I went to uni and studied business and economics, and IT was major, but it was like a sub-major, and my first job was an IT job, a programmer job, and it was just by accident. I was just like, when you leave uni, I just need a job, and just go, and that was the one that was offered me. And I couldn't have chosen a better career for myself. I love IT. I love the challenges of technology, and I love the people and the change and the interactions. I'm not a geeky techie. I'm not really good at all the infrastructure and all the hardware side of things. But I just love the change and the technology that goes with software applications. And just never had a day that I didn't want to get up and go to work.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, you both strike me as very kind of passionate people, which seems to be key, really.
Yeah, I think
common
so.
trend.
Yeah, and I think that's the networks that we have here in Sydney that we so love, is that people who are passionate, whether you're passionate about what you guys are doing and not the podcast, but your real job, but you guys are pretty passionate about that, and I love, we meet with Simon and he's all chirpy about what he's doing, but we just even within the networks, and I know I hope that you'll start running the networking meetings again at some point. But even going to the networking meetings and meeting other people in SAP, and those are the ones that are passionate about it, and I think that keeps us all going.
And what about yourself, Clive?
Look, it's much the same. I like the people interaction. I'm in it. I like to cut through the fluff of IT, wording and things like that. But no, I enjoy it. So it's good.
I think what I've noticed is a lot of the end users don't really understand all the project terminology, and so when we're doing project implementations, and I don't have the patience sometimes to sit down and go, it's going to impact you because of this reason and that reason, and so I'm really busy, and you'll be fine. It's not that big a deal, but of course it is a big deal to end users. I mean, their world is going to change, and Clive's a lot more patient with them, so that's why we do really well together. I'll deal with the technology side and data migration, and and Clive deals with the business readiness.
More of the business readiness and making sure I bring it back to basics.
Yeah.
Which is me.
Important.
So and he doesn't hurry them. I just go, hurry up.
So I'm hearing a lot the importance of team there. Then focusing on your strengths.
Very much. I believe we complement each other in different style.
And the team, the whole team that we have. I can't do what they do, so everybody has their role that they play and the contribution that they have. And if I get asked a question, if we're trying to do a plan for something, I can't answer all the questions about FICO and about PP or MM or HR payroll technology stuff. I have to ask different people in the team for that information, because we're not. No,
and we're very, very much aware of the strengths of our team. We're good, that we virtually handpicked them in the first place, and they're just so good.
Yep.
They don't need a lot of managing either. So
no, they're really good. They're really good, and they all contribute, and I think that makes us a team.
Sure.
And that probably goes back to why did we start doing this in the first place? Because you can sit on a team and think, wish we had somebody who was like that, and then when we work with someone like that, oh God, that's what we want. So when we go and do a project, actually what I'd like that person and that person and that person, and we'll work as that team.
So you said obviously a lot of hand picking there of people that you worked with before. Is there any kind of common theme that you look for, and you think, do you know what, they'd be brilliant within our team and our structure And yeah, what are those common themes that you do look for?
I don't know. It was very much one of the biggest projects we did when we started out. It was just very obvious to us we needed that person and that person.
I think it's passion.
And they were happy to come and join us.
But most of the team, you know, they we can rely on them. They're really reliable. They don't, you know, they're not going to come in and say, actually, I'm going to leave in 2 weeks.
No, they're very professional.
Right in the middle of a project.
You know.
They are passionate, so they actually want to do a good job. They're perfectionists, so, you know, sometimes we have to go, okay, you know, 80-20 rule. But I'd rather bring someone back from 100% to 80-20 than push them forward from 50-50. That's probably about right. No. I'd rather you were trying to do 100% and I say, actually, we've done enough. Than people going, that she'll be all right. We'll go live. She'll be all right.
So that's good insight.
And having a team of these people makes a project very, very easy because they all know each other's strengths. We don't get that person to write reports. They'll, you know, this one will much better at that. Whatever, you know, and they're good.
All those little things, right? And I think that that's so important because often, even we get it now, you know, a client will tell us, well, we need this skill set, this skill set, this skill set. They need to have that experience. Then you really boil down, you're like, okay, well, what's their day-to-day going to be like? And actually, it's going to be talking to this person. It's going to be writing about this. It's going to be managing this relationship. And all of a sudden, you've got two very different skill sets that you're looking for. One's the technical side, which really on paper anyone could do. But it's that stuff that you don't see on paper. It's what you get when you actually know a person like well. And you realize actually these strengths. I know. How do you talk about how you have a good conversation with a client stakeholder? How do you put that down on paper?
Hard.
That's really what you need.
And I think respect is another thing. So, you know, the person needs to respect the client. They need to respect the organisation they're working for and through. You know, they're going to make us look good. Because I don't want to be embarrassed back with the client that, you know, this person just couldn't be bothered to do something. So, you know, it's respect for the organisation, the reputation, respect for what the client's trying to achieve and being professional all the time. And, you know, it doesn't mean to say you have to always agree with everything, but you say you'll say and you do it respectfully and you move on, you know. So I think there's a few things there and,
Excellent. That's brilliant there. So I'd love to understand, this is a question that we've asked every guest on there, but a successful SAP project, how would you define that? What is it? Has it changed over time? Clive, I want to come to you first for that.
A successful project, the things I'd look for, first of all, obviously it's the kind of on time, on budget, that whole approach. At the end of the day, I think it's nice if you... Well, I recall the most successful ones are when you actually have a reunion with the team, 5 years in time, because it's gone well, and you really enjoyed your 6 months or a year together. That's a good thing. And obviously from the client's side of things, is to make sure that you met their expectations, you did your very best for them, along those lines, really, So that's good.
And then Ashley, I know you've got more of a technical slant. Is the way you define a successful project different? Or?
A bit different, yeah.
Yeah.
So and that's good, right?
Yeah.
So I think over the years, originally, a successful project would be on time and on budget, and meeting the requirements as they were documented and signed off and all that good stuff. And I think as SAP has matured over the last how many decades in implementations, people are realizing that it's not actually about the technical implementation, meeting the requirements that are documented, or going in on time and on budget, although on time and on budget is good. If you went on time and on budget and then you're spending the next 12 months fixing things and it's costing you the same again, that's not a successful project.
Sure.
Rather run proper project management, do good planning, which I still not, don't love planning. I'm a doer, but it's really important. So you spend a lot of time planning, make sure that you understand what you're doing and doing it properly, so that you're not coming back to fix things afterwards, and run a project with good project management, really understanding what your risks and issues are and mitigating for them. And if that mitigation means that you actually have to go back to your board or your stakeholders and say, I'm really sorry, we found this issue. This is the consequence of that issue, and the result is either a delay of 2 months or a cost increase of this, or more change management, or a change request to achieve a missing requirement. That's better before you've gone live than that terrible fixing after go live where everybody is going, well, this is a rubbish system, it doesn't work, and So I think there's always that balance, whereas I think when I was a bit younger, you just go, oh, no, can't delay, it's got to be in on time and on budget.
Sure. Yeah.
And we'll just deal with all the tickets that are raised after go live.
That was a better answer.
I think it's something that so many people can relate to, because you do hear about those horror stories where they've gone live and then everyone knows as well in that whole SAP market.
Yeah,
I mean, it travels.
Do you remember
like wildfire.
1,500 tickets and that terrible? Now I look at going, hey, there will be tickets. It's never perfect.
Yeah.
Tickets are fine. What's your risk or what's your risk profile on those tickets?
Yeah, sure.
And how damaging are they going to be to a reputation,
Absolutely.
to a relationship?
Exactly right.
No, sure.
That's exactly right.
Actually, I will ask you first, but we've both seen that you both approach projects very differently. You come technical, you come people. So I imagine this will be a pretty drastically different answer. But in terms of a project management methodology, how do you describe it? How do you define it? What are your check boxes, when you move into the role like that?
Yeah, so I think planning, I mentioned earlier, so I think on the methodology, definitely having a proper approach to planning, not just creating your technical plan, but understanding the whole width and breadth of the project, setting up appropriate governance. So just the really upfront bits, getting your governance right, so understanding, between yourself and your client and your team members, this is how we're going to operate, this is the governance structure, this is when I want you to tell me that there's something going wrong. We'll do reporting structures, how are we doing the reporting, it's risk and issue management, just getting it all right up front, and then having a really, I won't call it strict, but regular cadence along the track of the project, of keeping that the project getting managed, so that what we found often is that we'll write reports, the team give me a little report of what you've done, and then that rolls up to the program manager, and the program manager gets and sends it off to the board. Maybe it doesn't, maybe no one in the board reads it, or it gets put into papers once a month rather than weekly, and then everyone goes, well, why am I bother writing this project report? What I found is that people stop doing it, and I just go, I don't care if no one's reading it, we're writing it, because it's part of our communication in the team. Then we all know what each other's done, even if no one wants to know outside. We all know where we are, what problems we're facing, how we're dealing with it, what we're planning to do next week, all the good stuff that happens. So I think it's really a methodology. I mean, an implementation methodology you follow with ASAP and Prince 2, project management and stuff, all of that's good. But I think it's just the governance structures and the regular, risk and issue management.
So you follow a process no matter what?
I do, yeah. And
Jay can relate.
Yeah.
Jay can really relate.
I'm not always great at it, I mean, I'm naturally not good at that. I want to do things. I don't want to report things. But I have noticed if you don't do that, that's when your project starts to go off track. So I see the importance of doing that. Really important.
Yeah, just the little 1%ers early, and they put you off track, and if you leave them, then you're miles off.
Absolutely.
Opposed to getting it back to an original plan. Yeah.
And if we all just do that little 1% of fixing along the way, we just keep going, and everybody knows that we're still heading that way instead of deviating.
Yeah. What about you, Clive? Similar or wildly different?
No, I mean, if it's
wildly different.
No, not really. It's just for a project. The governance is obviously very important, and everything Ashley said. I tend to kind of really want to understand the client their needs, the stakeholders, the sponsors, making sure we've got the right resources. So I tend to focus on
The
those
people.
things.
Yeah.
The people.
Yeah.
The
Really
people.
is split perfectly down the middle.
Yeah. And we've been working together
Yeah.
for 12 years now.
Yeah.
And before, we joined up 3 years ago as a business, but we've been working together. And that was exactly it, I trust Clive's perspective on people. Sometimes I haven't got the patience for some of that, but it's okay because he has. So, I rely a lot on that because I'm not particularly good at that.
You're not too bad.
All right, so I'm going to put this question to you. So I'm going to ask you to get a bit vulnerable. But Clive, I'm going to come to you first.
Sure.
And what would you describe as your biggest failure? But most importantly, what did you learn from it?
I absolutely struggled to think of a failure. And we went through this and we thought some ideas, but I'd really struggled to think of a failure. It might have been that example I spoke of earlier where the project wasn't going anywhere and I said that's the worst job. Maybe I should have done more to kind of talk to the stakeholders at that time, but it was, my early days of doing consulting, and I just said, fine, it's time to move on. Maybe I should have challenged myself a bit more then as a failure, but nothing otherwise.
Sure.
Everything I've done's been
perfect. Do you reckon that's a question on perspective of failure rather than, because I think a lot of people have that connotation of failure as really just dropped the ball on this one. But I think that often we say if you've learnt from something, is it a failure or is it just a learning point where you've moved forward?
Oh, probably a learning point.
Yeah.
Probably a learning point. I should have challenged myself more at that time, but I was doing something fairly new to me at that point, and should have done more. But I agree with you.
And what about yourself, Ashley?
Oh, I don't know.
She's perfect too.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, I think I'm going to say maybe less perfect than positive. So I actually I don't see much as a failure. I think there are things that I could do better along the way, and certainly what we talked about, doing more planning up front. So before, someone would say, can you do this? Sure. And then just pile in head first.
Sure,
And I don't know that it resulted in failure, but maybe it resulted in a bit of strife along the way that could have been avoided. And, so I have learnt to plan better. I've also learnt not to just go, you gave me the requirements, that's good. You actually go back in and challenge and make sure that people are giving you the right information and you're talking the same language.
Sure.
So I'm not trying to implement something that's, grey and orange when they really ask for red and black, I think I can't recall like a big failure.
Yeah.
Luckily, I have not been in one of those terrible projects, or, but there are things that I've learnt from.
Sure.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with your point. So maybe a perspective thing,
I think so.
I hear a lot of positivity and passion. So it depends. It's how you approach a situation.
Yeah, and I don't whack myself on the back and say what a bad thing to do. I just go, I could have done that better, and just move on.
And you move on. Yeah, 100%. I think that's so important as well, that resilience at any point in life. Yeah, fair enough.
Okay, and actually I'm going to come to you with this question first, but who's been the biggest influence in your career, and what did he or she teach you?
Yeah, I think I've had a lot of influences in different perspectives. I think I had a boss. So in management style and in ways of working, I had a manager, my first manager when I moved to England. So I was, quite young, and she was just very real. So before that, managers had always been, old, and I'd been young.
Yeah.
They were older, and they sat in an office, and you were like, okay. And she was just not like that. She had an office, but she often sat out amongst us and then let us use her office if we needed meetings or do phone calls or stuff like that. And I just learned a lot about actually a manager can be just part of the team,
Mm.
because we've all got a role to play. So the fact that the manager also has a role to play doesn't mean that they're particularly better or different. They just have a different role within a team, every team person. And I think that's a huge learning, and I was really happy to have learned it quite early in my career.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely, it's brilliant. And what about yourself, Clive?
Look, I really was very, very lucky. My first few managers were just brilliant. I worked with one person, Bruce Tafe, and he was sensational. I was his offsider. I watched the way he interviewed people, just the way he greeted people. You learn all those things, and he was very influential in my life, And he was a true professional. Set good standards, and I kept in touch with him forever and ever, So one of those things. But in the early days, I think it is. If you're lucky enough, you get some good role models.
They help build that foundation,
Absolutely.
don't they?
Yeah, no.
You get to cherry pick the best of them.
And you're right, and you actually can say, I don't like that, but I like that, and you kind of grow on those things.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer you don't choose your job, choose your leader.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're speaking to candidates in the market, I want to work for XYZ company, it's going to look really good on my CV. Whereas a leader will make you good, or give you the opportunity to make you good.
And don't take the credit, and all those things. As you grow older, you just make sure that acknowledgement's paid to the people who really done the hard graft. So.
Excellent.
Yeah, sure.
All right, no problem. So this is a good question. What would you tell your 21-year-old self? I'm going to come to you first.
Qualifications, travel the world, and learn from the good and bad times. That's it, really. You'll have bad times. You should have bad times. Then you appreciate things more.
Sure. Yeah. And Ashley, it seems like you've done all of that.
Yeah, I'm going to say carpe diem, seize the day.
Yes, yeah, sure.
I think that too many people, maybe it's a bit of what you said around, I want to work for that company or that company. No. What are your opportunities? If an opportunity comes by, grab it. Grab it. Don't just watch and go, should I be thinking about doing that? Or what happens if I change my mind in 3 months? No. Something comes by and it looks good, grab it. The old days, people used to get a job and it was their job for life, and you sort of, you'd be there and you'd think, I can't really leave, I owe things to the company. You don't owe it. You only owe yourself. So it comes by, grab it. If it works for the company, they'll keep you. If it works for you, you'll stay. And that might be a marriage made in heaven and you might be there for 40 years. But if it's not, you shake hands and you leave positively, and maybe your paths will cross again in 20 years and you'll join up again positively again then. So I just really would encourage people to do that.
Seize the day. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Love that, Ashley. Great insight.
Yeah.
Ashley, who would you like to see on the podcast?
We both.
Yeah, we both. I'd love you to interview Neil Minto.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
I think we're trying.
Grab him, because I when I got to Australia, the time that I worked with Neil, he was very influential. I like the way Neil manages. I like a lot of the way Neil behaves in a work environment, and a lot of the things that he does. He's a great operator. I got a lot of time for Neil. So if you had an opportunity to get him to share some of his thoughts, I would be very interested in hearing them.
Send him this snippet now. Sorry, I'm going to send this in an email, no subjects, whatever, just the video.
How embarrassing.
He can't say no.
Yeah, 100%.
And I worked with Neil a long time ago, and he's top bloke, so love to see him in the spotlight.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. That was brilliant.
Yeah, thank you.